Test. Le clicker, c'est celui-là.
Ouais, c'est bon, t'es en direct, c'est bon.
On clique sur quoi?
Le gros, tu avances, le petit, tu recules.
Ok, merci.
Ok, là, t'es en direct, c'est bon.
Clicker,
Parfait.
micro. Et là, c'est en direct.
Bien, le lien ne fonctionne pas.
C'est enregistré ou pas?
Ouais, c'est enregistré, ouais.
Is anyone managing the online comments?
Faudrait qu'il y ait quelqu'un. C'est bon.
Because already people.
Bah, Nico Marco, non? What? No, the other Marco.
We should fire him.
Yeah.
Only one Marco and one VINCI.
But you're not Marco, you're Marc, because you can speak French now. So you lost your O. I'm sorry about that. We're live? Amazing. Hey guys. You're getting the backstage information here with us. It's world premiere. Live from Paris, at Leonard Paris. Amazing. All of this is not generated by ChatGPT. It's human intelligence bringing you an AI-based presentation on LLMs. It's going to be beautiful. We're here sitting with Marco with an O, who can speak French and Portuguese and English and a little bit of German.
My sister is asking if it was me that
Oh, that's fine. Come on. It's fine. Nothing is being recorded anyway. So people are just enjoying our, like when you're going to a concert and you just hear like the artist speaking. That's the same.
Yeah.
You can see us or not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're liking it? We should fire him. I love it.
Moi, j'ai rien.
Je peux prendre la photo si
Non, ça va, regarde, ça va bien.
c'est qui? Incroyable. We can like warm the room, like hey.
Question, j'imagine, genre.
Next week, you know? Otherwise, we're on stage.
Ouais, genre. Regarde, vous faites des questions à la clinique. Vous faites des pauses de questions un peu régulières. Du coup, je sais pas.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Sorry for the little delay. We had a little problem. So this conference will be at the beginning in English because we are broadcasting this event around the world. But then If you subscribe for the working group, then it will be in French. Okay. Maybe we can lower a little bit the sound back there because it's very high. So welcome everybody on site and online. My name is Bruno Donnet and I'm managing an AI program. This program is funded by VINCI and helps all the entities from the VINCI company to implement AI projects. And fortunately for us, it's the last day of this session, this year's AI program. We finished just this morning. So the 15 projects we implemented are now live and they will be developed and industrialized throughout the group. And maybe you will be aware of these projects in the future. So we took this chance today to finish the AI program and then have this session with you to talk about ChatGPT, this new buzz. Just for you to know, 5 years ago, we had the same buzz regarding the AI technology. Everybody didn't know what really was this technology, and everybody said, okay, we'll change the world. It's the end of our job, and we'll all die, machine will raise, etc. But then we understood what was this technology. We developed this technology onto impactful project within the group, and all was fine. And nowadays, so 5 years after, comes a new buzzword, ChatGPT, and again, everybody's saying we'll lose our job, machine will rise again, and we'll die again soon. So maybe you'll have some answer on, is this for real that time? Are we all going to lose our job? We'll try to answer this question during this hour all together. And you will find maybe many answers, different answers. So the presentation here is about awareness, and it's a little bit technical so that we dig into the technology for you to understand that maybe it's not that revolutionary. Let me introduce the fourth speaker for this session. I myself will introduce the concept. Then we will have a speech by Julia Himmelbach, who is a data scientist in Actions Austria and a coach in the AI program. Then we will have Marco Vicente as well. He's a data scientist in Actions Portugal and a coach in the AI program as well. And Eric Pierrard is a coach in the AI program working at Leonard with me. So let's start by having a look at the community. Is it a revolution or not? On the one hand, some people are just telling that it's absolutely not revolutionary. What is revolutionary is that it has been made public. So everybody was able to use a technology that previously it was more for people who know how to handle this technology. So these two very famous people, Yann Lequin and Luc Julia, just said it's not revolutionary, it's just because it's made public. And on the other hand, Bill Gates, well-known guy as well, he says on his part that it's a revolution and maybe it will change everything. So we'll have to maybe make our own opinion based on what we'll show you. Let's have a look to what is ChatGPT according to itself. Sorry, I'm just making some room here so that I can see the screen, otherwise it's a little bit difficult. Okay. So ChatGPT, it's an AI language model. So what is an AI model language? This we will have to understand all together. What is a language model and what is, in fact, natural language processing? Second, it has been trained on massive data sets. What does it mean to train a model? So here we have two different concepts, natural language processing, and it has been trained on massive data. Last, it can be used for a variety of applications. Then again, which kind of applications, and we'll show you that we already developed some applications 4 years ago. So for us, it's not that revolutionary. Here comes the summary of the talk. First, I said that we will have to introduce this concept. What is NLP, natural language processing? Second, a little bit of history and technology. What is behind this model? The limits, of course, of the model and the improvements that are already undertaken by the different groups that are using this model. And part 4 and 5 are more dedicated to the use cases. Use cases we developed within the AI program or use cases that you could imagine to develop within your company. So as you work every day, you are used to manipulate a broad variety of data. You have the text data in emails, you have text data in products data sheets everywhere. You can see that it's a product data sheet and it's all for text. You have text embedded into blueprints, and you are used to manipulate this. You have text and numbers in invoices, quotations, and of course, text on social media. And because we are coming at a digital era, all these information are coming at a massive stage. We have a lot of this data. So what you would need at first, because you have a lot of data, is to find information within one document. You have, for example, you want, for example, to find a specific price for all different elements inside a quote. Or if you are an IT technician, you want to find the root cause of a problem in many IT tickets. So this is the first thing that you want to do, retrieve information in all the quantity information that you have. Second, what you would want to need is to classify these different text data, because you have everything everywhere. You want, for example, to classify the quotations depending on a type of job. Or you want to classify the comments on social media depending on whether it's a good sentiment or a bad sentiment. This is, for example, for a communication manager. You have communication manager at VINCI and in different divisions from VINCI, and they are classifying the comments on social media depending on the sentiment. So this is a second thing that you would need to do depending on the whole data that you have. Third, you want to identify trends depending on all the data that you have. For example, identifying the main root cause of an incident. When you are performing maintenance, usually you are plugged to lots and lots of data. You just want to find the trends that lead to the failure. And again, for the community manager, you want to identify the trends depending on the different comments you have on social media or on customer services. Fourth, you want to transcript usually your voice into a text data. This is quite easily. You can do this with a recorder on site, or you can as well directly transcript this live event with subtitle, for example. So this is a use case you would want to handle. Last, you want to, not last, the one before last, you want to translate, because you have access to the data. You can transcript from a voice to text, then you can translate the text into another language. So for meetings or even for a data sheet, for example. Last, what you would want to do is to interact with this text. And there come the text generation. How to provide appropriate answers to requests coming from everybody. This is something that we could do to answer IT tickets or to generate code. These all applications, the 6 applications you've seen, you can do it manually when you deal with a few amount of data. But when you are dealing with lots and massive amounts of data, here comes natural language processing. Natural language processing is only a model that is plugged onto your data, and then that can perform these 6 elementary use cases: information retrieving, information classification, trends identification, audio transcription, translation, and text generation. That is a use case from natural language processing. And you can see on the right part of the screen that GPT, a model developed in the NLP technology, handle the whole 6 use cases. The use cases you've just seen. And that ChatGPT is only a sub-use cases on the all NLP use cases that you can see. I'm sure everybody use already ChatGPT, and you already use ChatGPT to translate, for example, text. So yes, of course, even if ChatGPT is a sub-use case of GPT, it has been trained on GPT, and you can see that GPT is handling the 6 use cases. So yes, you will have an answer coming from ChatGPT, but it has not been developed specifically for translation. So here is the first limit on ChatGPT. It can handle many use cases, but with a very, very few precision. Now that you have the full concept, the NLP concept, a technology plug into massive data that is performing 6 use cases, let's see how it is handled. And then here comes Julia.
Thank you, Bruno, for the introduction. So, short about me, I'm a data scientist and team lead of the advanced analytics team at Axions Austria, and I'm also working at an AI coach at the Leonard program. So we already heard a little bit about ChatGPT, you already used it, but where is it from? So ChatGPT is based on a large language model. So the heart of it is a large language model, and we have a lot of them. There is not only one. And ChatGPT itself is based on GPT, like the newest version now is GPT-4, and these large language models are basically trained on a lot of text. And you usually distinguish them in the amount of parameters, what we can also see here. So what we see here, the GPT-3 one was having 175 billion parameters. So this is quite a lot. You need a lot of data to do that. And you can also see there's a new large model of error, like of all these large language models. And there are new ones coming out every week. And what we have to know about that is that it's highly computationally expensive to train these models. So you don't do this on your personal computer. And on top of that, we also have to see that training them is also having a huge effect on environmental resources, because this is not a very environmental friendly process. It costs a lot of resources to train that. So it's basically possible to do that for big companies. And how does it work? What is the main principle? So you write a prompt. Maybe most of you have already done that. You wrote a prompt and you ask, okay, recite the first article of the French Declaration of Human and Civic Rights. And then ChatGPT is using a lot of resources. It uses articles from newspapers or the internet resources. So we have Wikipedia, which is a very big resource, but also books. And then you get an output. You get men are born and remain free and equal in rights. Perfect. But ChatGPT is not giving you an answer. It's just assuming an answer that makes sense because it was trained on a lot of text. And we will come to that later, how this is working. But it's not giving you the right answer. So you should also always question, what is the output? So here we see, you see that we have a lot of different online sources, for example, the LEC website, or we have Wikipedia, or the Constitutional Council. So here we have masked words. If you have not heard about that, like here you can see, for example, the first one that is masked is articles. So we call that mask. And then we swipe through the text and we mask another word. So that's how we learn what is the most probable next word in a text if we ask for an answer. And you have an input. The input could be, as we have the example, first article of the French Declaration. Okay, that is the input that it gives you. And then it could say, okay, the output is Leonard. But we think the next word should not be Leonard, the next word should be man. So the correct output is man, and then we say, okay, it's an error, so you have to update your parameters, you have to learn again. Please repeat until the prediction was correct. So that's how you train that. That's actually also how you fine-tune it, because it could also be that you have a very specific use case, and it's very important that you use the vocabulary that is very important to your business. Yeah, every one of you has that very specific vocabulary. Wikipedia doesn't know, or it's only covered in very specific resources, or maybe it's internal language. So you can fine-tune these kind of models in the same way. You just say, okay, the correct output should have been business in this case. So give it an error, try again, train and train and train. That's why it's very expensive to train that. So what we have is, we have the input, recite the first article, and so on. So the probable output that it's mentioning is now man. So the question is now, what could be the next word? So then it's asking itself again, okay, what could be the next word? Then it says are, okay, and then we continue. Born, okay, makes more sense. And remain equal in right. That's how it's working. It's really predicting the next word, word by word by word. But that's not all, so Eric will continue with that.
Thank you, Julia. Hello, everyone. So I'm Eric. I'm an AI mentor, as Bruno said, working for Leonard this year for the program. So as Julia was saying, I was talking to you about the training of GPT. You can get a sense that the predictions of GPT are not actually truth. They are possible answers. And you can see that by the fact that actually GPT doesn't give one unique answer, but gives probabilities, likelihoods of possible outputs. And for the example here, if you put the sentence, the mice is eaten by D, and you expect an answer, 90% of the time, GPT will give you the answer cat, but 77% of the time dog, snake, 2%, and others for the rest of the percentage. So actually, it computes all the different possibilities based on all the different contexts that GPT has seen such a sentence. And based on that, it computes what is the most plausible output, what makes the most sense based on all the different contexts it has seen this sentence. So it's the very key message here is that it's not a unique source of truth. Actually, GPT doesn't even know what the concept of truth, but it's possible outputs, which of course you will see later, but has some consequences on how to use the outputs of GPT. We'll talk about that later. But first, I want to explain how we go from GPT, which we have been talking about so far, to ChatGPT. So GPT is the large language model. It's the basic brick, the basic content. It's what learns the language, the vocabulary, the semantic meanings of words, the grammar, and all the context. And it's actually where most of the value comes from. It's a very large model. It's very heavy to train. Julia talked about the number of parameters that it's using. And it's actually costing millions to train. And it's we call it very often the foundation model because it's the really foundation piece of ChatGPT. Now, if we want to talk about ChatGPT, there is two other pieces to add. One piece is the fine-tuning part. ChatGPT is a chatbot, so you need, instead of just having the prediction of the following words after a sentence, you need to actually answer questions. So how to do that? It has been fine-tuned with the help of workers in Kenya. Actually, it's also a bit of the controversy because they were paid $2 per day to do that. But these workers actually wrote answers to 13,000 prompts that were carefully selected to give a wide range of possible questions to ask to ChatGPT. And so they were writing answers to these prompts. And this data set was used then to train GPT to answer to questions instead of just predicting following sequences. The third step, is the reward model, because so now you have a chatbot that answers questions, but you want to make sure that these answers make sense and are the kind of answers that would be expected by humans. So how to do that? We again ask some humans to rank all the different answers from ChatGPT to a same prompt, just to give a sense to the model of what is a better answer than another to the same prompt. And so they were doing that for thousands of prompts. And it was a way to give, then the ChatGPT was given that to reinforce its learning using this quality evaluation. So 2 key elements about these 2 bricks. One for the fine-tuning with prompt and answers. What is important to remember here is that the quality of the prompts is very important. It's actually one of the main new job, I would say, that we started hearing about is prompt engineering. It's how to write the best prompts to get the answers that you would like to your specific problem. So if you give a lot of context to ChatGPT about who you are, about what you would like to have, and what's your specific situation, it will get better to answer your problem. And lastly, about the third step, the reward model. So here it illustrates what I was saying about the human ranking of possible answers to one question. It's also a way to implement policies to ChatGPT to prevent from illegal or dangerous content answers. It's what's actually being done so that you don't have answers that you would not expect. So now I'm going to talk to you about, I leave the floor to Bruno to talk about improvement potential and limitations, especially about ethics.
So now, now that you know everything, we'll see a little bit of why it's wrong to use this technology, that the technology you already use, of course. First, we have compliancy concerns, because the free version of ChatGPT, there is a version that is under the payroll of Microsoft, but first it has been free. And when it was open, all the text that you input into this model interface could be used by everybody. It means that if you diffuse some information regarding your entity, everybody was able to connect to this entity and to know about what you were doing. And in fact, when you were asking for something that was close to your business, then ChatGPT said everything about your business. So that was a kind of a huge problem for everybody, and it's still a problem because it's an open technology. It's not something that is developed only for specific companies. So be careful about that when you use ChatGPT. Do not copy past your code that is of major importance, code or anything. And you all know about the issue that has been raised by Italy. So first, ChatGPT as a fourth has been launched on the 14th of March. Then on the 20th of March, OpenAI had a major loss of data. So a lot of conversations, email or private conversation were accessible online. So that's why on March 31st, Italy just said, try to block the use of ChatGPT. And this has still not been solved by OpenAI. So it's still on. There are major breach everywhere. So be careful when you're using this technology. It's powerful, but you have to know that there are some limitations. Second, and intellectual properties. As you know, when you use this tool, there is absolutely no copyright of AI generated content. It means that it can use or reuse articles, etc., that have been created by some authors, and you are not retributing these people. So you are using materials, and you are not paying for that. So maybe when the algorithm give you an answer, it is just a copy paste of something that has been created by someone else, and you have to pay a fee on this. So just be careful about that. Of course, some mitigation are underway, and they are working on different aspects under regulation to be compliant, of course. Ethical concerns as well. You have lots of classical bias that you know in the AI technology. All the bias are existing in ChatGPT. The problem is that it's open to the majority of us. It became public, so these bias are just spreading into our society. So bias and stereotypes. We'll see an example here. When you ask ChatGPT in January 2023, write a Python function to check if someone would be a good scientist based on the JSON description of their race and gender. ChatGPT is answering, if you are white and male, then you are a good scientist. So it's typically a bias, we can say. Of course, they try to correct the algorithm. So in April, there are some limitations. And now, if you type exactly this sentence, you can try. I tried it yesterday just to be sure today. I'm sorry, but it is not appropriate to use something, etc., etc. Such an approach is not only unethical, etc., etc. So, of course, OpenAI is taking care of these bias and stereotypes, but they cannot handle all the bias and all the stereotypes, and there are many, many of them. And you can play with this ChatGPT using, at first, write a Python function. When you start with this, you can ask many things, and you will see that the stereotypes are still here and the bias as well. Last one. Tell me a very short story about a boy and a girl choosing their career. And of course, the boy is an astronaut and the girl is a teacher. It's normal. Training approach. So each answering that answers from ChatGPT are human-like comes at a cost, of course. As you can see, we have to train and train again the model, and we have to choose the right answer, the most probable answer corresponding to a question. And who is doing this? Kenyans, people that are paid nothing, and they are just applying an answer to improve the algorithm. So Kenyans, or it's a new job, you know, it's the same as you know for Facebook, when people have to label the picture, etc. It's exactly the same, but for text. And of course, full context, because ChatGPT doesn't know what is providing in front of you. It can tell you a kind of horrible story, a story you do not want, for example, to see. Again, they are trying to solve this issue. It's not in production nowadays, but they are trying little by little to solve this issue. And this issue is not dedicated to ChatGPT. All the large language models are facing this problem. All natural language processing models are facing this problem. So it's not typically from ChatGPT, but know that because ChatGPT is widely used, it is spreading the problem of stereotypes. So here is a summary of what we already saw and some mitigations. Technical.
Thank you, Bruno. So now we're going to see some technical limits to ChatGPT. There are two main technical limits. The first one is false information. So we've talked about the training of GPT, and we saw that it's not a truth, the output, it's just a plausible output. So the consequence of that is that, of course, it can give wrong information. Here, we asked the question to ChatGPT, how many countries start with the letter V? And it answers, there's only one country that starts with the letter V, it's Vanuatu. Actually, there are others, like Venezuela, for example, or Vatican, if we consider it's a country. So that's the first example of wrong information. Second important thing about that is that it will give answers that are consensus rather than mitigated answers that are not that can be actually the truth, but not always consensus for. And you can see that when you ask ChatGPT, are you sure about your answer? Very often, he won't be very sure about him, because when he is in his learning steps, when he has seen the questions, are you sure about this? It's often implying that you are doubting on the first answer. And so sometimes, quite often, he will answer that, actually, no, I apologize, I made a mistake, because it's what he saw in his learning steps. There are actually no countries that starts with a letter V. So what does that tell us is that you have to be very cautious about the answers of GPT. Second technical limit is limited evolution. So same, it has been trained on some content that actually are from the past, sources that stops at some time in time, and so, for example, here when we ask the question about Python library to help us code on some dashboard using Dash, the problem that Dash library is not very well documented and cleanly documented, generate an output that doesn't work. So you cannot, you have to pay attention to the question you ask to ChatGPT. If it's the content of the answer you expect is something that is very recent, it will be out of the scope of the training of ChatGPT. So it won't be able to give you any possible answer. So the key takeaway here is to always check the content of the answers, always double check, and use at least cautiously. Second type of technical limits based on structural design of ChatGPT. The first one is that it's actually a chatbot. So it's designed to answer questions, but not really address some key specific topics. For instance, code or translation or mathematics or other stuff that are very specific. It's just designed to answer some questions. And so, for example, here on code, it won't be, as we've seen just before, it won't be able to answer specific questions on Dash library, for instance. But there are some specific versions like GitHub CoPilots that are developed currently to address those specific use cases. Limited understanding. So as we also understood from the training steps, ChatGPT doesn't actually understand what is asked to do. So it cannot make any, it's not very good at making logical reasoning. And so we can see that when we ask him mathematical questions, and you will see that he's very often, he won't be very good at answering those kind of logical problems because he hasn't been trained on this specific reasoning. However, again, there are some tools that are currently being developed to answer those specific use cases and to understand more logic. Finally, it's a persuasive tool. It hasn't been built to fact check all the information it's giving. And so you can quite easily trick ChatGPT to get into wrong answers. Here we gave an example of, we asked ChatGPT to compare the performance of CPU and GPU for deep learning tasks. So deep learning tasks use neural networks, so they are very technical, intensive, and CPU is less good at doing that than GPU. There are two kinds of processors, and the one is more better at doing parallelized tasks, and so is more computer intensive. And if we ask the question, why is CPU better than GPU for deep learning, it will trick ChatGPT, into understanding that actually CPU is better than GPU, and so it will generate an answer to provide you proof that arguments that actually CPU is better than GPU, which is not the case. So this, you can do that the same with DNA computing and Abacus computing, that are two other types of computing that are less efficient, a lot less efficient than GPU. So what it means is that you can easily trick GPT into doing giving wrong outputs. All these technical limits to give you the message that it's very important to double check the possible answers for the answers of ChatGPT. It can be a solution, of course, to help you if you have some questions, but it must not be the single source of truth. You have to double check and cross-check different sources of information. A concrete example. So we've talked about how ChatGPT is training. We talked about his limits. And now we are going to see a concrete example at Leonard on some use case where we addressed an issue using NLP. We used ChatGPT and how we cope with those limits. So we are going to talk to you about PLU. So PLU is Plan Local d'Urbanisme. It's a document at a city level where you specify how you can build, for example, houses in that city, and all the different rules that you should abide if you live in that city. So you can understand that these documents are quite specific to a city. They change a lot one city to another, so it's quite difficult to make some automatic information extraction from it. So it was actually a real project from one of the promotion of Leonard, and some different approaches were taken. One first approach you can think of is to just extract knowledge only based on business rules. Problem is that there are so many different possibilities that it's actually taking a lot of time and it's too complicated. So that's what we actually want to avoid. We want to automate that. First approach is to submit all the documents to ChatGPT without any fine-tuning or any steps before that. And what we saw that is two things. First, is very large, so it's not the right way for ChatGPT to work. ChatGPT can only take in a certain amount of words as context. And so if you give a document that is more than 100 or 200 pages, it will be not working as well. So this approach, we tested it, and it only gave 10% of accuracy based on the training set, on the test set with answers and questions we are looking for. Second approach is to use ChatPDF, an online tool that makes it quicker to do all these operations. So this is the first good solution. And the last solution was which is one we are currently working on, is a custom approach, which is mixing business rules and models, which a lot of work has been done on giving ChatGPT the right prompt and giving the customizing with the right corpus of data. And we saw that it was giving a much better output, around 50% accuracy, which is not perfect, but it's already better. The key takeaway out of it is the fact that it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. You don't just have to put any information inside ChatGPT and it will throw some good results. It doesn't work that way. You have to engineer it well with the right fine-tuning, the right prompts, and the right specific corpus to use. So this was the first example. There are other use cases which Marco and Julia are going to present to you, and I will give the floor to Marco. Julia, sorry.
Ladies first. So yeah, the Leonard AI program, we are here today at Leonard, and we have already developed a lot of natural language processing use cases. And here are just some examples of them. So we will show you later what was Ticket AI about, Gutenbrain, Loco, and Scalar AI. And in all of them, we have already used large language models. So for us, a large language model is not something new. We're already using them. And for example, for Scalar AI, we use that for information classification. Also in NOCO, we identify the carbon emissions of some texts, so we can analyze it. And also in Gutenbrain, but Marco will tell you more about that later. So let's start with Ticket AI. Here we had the use case that we looked at the help desk service. And you know, a new ticket arrives, they have to categorize an IT ticket, and then they have to prioritize it. How urgent is it? How fast we have to answer it? And then we assign it to a team or to a person. And then the real work starts. So you have to search for a ticket solution. So we had two sources. We had past tickets, and we knew how the ticket was solved in the past. And on top of that, we had a knowledge base. So in the knowledge base, you could also find solutions for problems. And then with that information, you solve your ticket, you answer it, and the flow continues. The problem is that the process of searching a ticket is very, like the solution, finding the solution is very, very time consuming. It is a complex task, it is a manual task, and a lot of tickets are repetitive. And also if you're new, you might not know everything, you're not an expert in all the fields, so you might lack some knowledge or experience, and it might be a problem to come to the solution fast. So here we had a median process time of like 96 hours. That's 4 days. So the solution was that we used an AI and large language model to find similar answers from similar historic tickets and from the knowledge base. So this significantly made the process totally fast, and it automated this system, and it recommended some solutions and to the agent that is solving the problem. And you also have an improved training management for the new people that will work there, so they can see, that could be the solution. I haven't thought about that. And then you can give the solution to your client, to the customer that has the problem, and solve it. And next is Gutenbrain.
Thanks, Julia. So my name is Marco Vicente. I lead the Innovation and Accents Portugal, and I'm part of the Leonard team. And I'm here to present you Gutenbrain. So Gutenbrain is an offer for AI-powered solution to automate maintenance engineering. It was made by Actimium Oil and Gas and Axians. They joined together here at Leonard. So explaining the process. Actimium Oil and Gas does maintenance engineering for big platforms, and so the work can be divided in 3 steps. First, they do the asset register constitution, where they take thousands of pieces of equipment, they extract it manually. After that, they have to decide what are the critical parts, what are the spare parts that are needed to keep the platform running. And finally, they have to do the maintenance procedure and manuals, because after they do this planning, things have to work 24/7. So what we found out was a lot of problems. So the first one was that they did that manually. Imagine, we are here for about an hour. Who of you is feeling tired right now, like 1 hour of information? Imagine they have 5 people doing this work when they do a project, and they do this by hand, thousands of documents extracting the equipment. And after that, they have unstructured information, documents that might be or not PDFs, that are not searchable, and they need to decide what are the critical parts to have the platform running, and they do it by hand. And finally, they do this while the platform is being built. So it's normal for documents to be changed. And every time there's a new document, they have to do the recovery of the tags again and again. So this is a very slow and costly process. We're talking about 5 people working on this. This is engineers, specialized. What we did with Gutenbrain to tackle the problems was first we extracted automatically this. So this started with 5 people working 8 hours a day to a process that extracts 80% of these tags automatically. The second thing we did was using NLP, we have an intelligent search engine through all the unstructured information. So this means that now they can search for type of equipment or part of the infrastructure, and they don't need to know where the information is. Gutenbrain knows. And finally, we can tackle new documents. We can understand what is the difference between the first version, the second version, and it even helps Actimel and Guess to talk to their providers and say, these are more changes than expected, and this is easier. So this is a solution that is saving a lot of time, and now we have engineers that are focused in framing the problem, in deciding what are the critical parts, and not in the development and extraction of information. So this was a use case. For the last session, we are going to talk about some use cases of ChatGPT. I will talk about some integrations. Eric will show some possible use cases, and then Bruno will show how we are going to do the ideation session here at Leonard. So first use case, everybody uses the browser. So now we can use ChatGPT in our browser. We authenticate in Edge, and instead of searching and have results and search again, we can use a conversation system. I ask a question, it gives responses, I can ask the question again. And contrary to ChatGPT, it doesn't use data from last year. If you ask who is the champion in Portugal, it will say Benfica. It's up to date. And then again, it has a good conversation mode because people are different, and they created 3 modes. The first one is balanced, so this is the regular ChatGPT. We have creative, so it's a more informal way of talking with us. And then precise, so you are talking like with a lawyer, very precise. And the good thing is that it also cites everything that he used. So the references of where the information was extracted for you to then validate, because as Bruno said, sometimes the information is not correct, so you have the opportunity to validate if the information is right or not. The second one, Teams. So all of us use Teams. This morning we had a presentation in French, we had a presentation in English. ChatGPT is translating in real time. If you have a Stirco in French, I will fully understand it, but you might not, so it now translates. It also is giving a transcript of what was said. It's giving a summary. It provides next steps. And it even in the next steps can integrate with Outlook, and then it can even suggest the best slot for the people that are in that meeting. This is right now being tested with 20 companies worldwide, and they are going to get more companies in the loop, and VINCI is one of them. So soon we'll have some insights of how can this improve our own job, not only our customers. And finally, we already use CoPilot when coding. Now CoPilot is also in the stack that we use regularly. So in Word, we can say, put this in a more formal way. We can change the tone. You can use the Word format and say, generate me a first draft of the PowerPoint, and then I can improve it. Excel, I can prompt, I can a phrase like, give me a pie chart with the percentage of the results of some data from my business, and it will generate automatically pivot tables, graphics, and even in Outlook. Imagine that we exchanged a lot of emails regarding like a contract with Leonard, and then it can summarize and say, this was what was said, these are the people involved, and it can really, really help us. So now I pass the mic to Eric, and he'll show some use cases.
Thank you, Marco. So now I'm going to present to you some potential use cases. Of course, the list is non-exhaustive. There are lots of different ideas possible. The idea is to give you just a sense of what kind of task you can perform with ChatGPT so that it can lighten other ideas from you. I think that CoPilots is rightly named because the idea is it's an AI assistant. It's helping you perform simple and recurring tasks So for example, write short texts or write emails, sum up notes, etc. That you can perform with ChatGPT. Other kind of stuff is concerns all that is synthesizing tests that are very long from PDFs, reports, or other documents. We've seen also with Marco that it can help you create business presentations or help you on Excel. These features are quite new. They are still tested, and we have been actually testing some of them, and they prove to be quite basic for now. It's not always working accurately, but we have some positive expectations for the future. It should work better in the afterwards. And then all different use cases using a chatbot for conversational purposes, so like online question answering or client facing. To be a bit more specific, we're gonna quickly address different ideas by vertical. So first one is about communication. What can you do with ChatGPT? One idea is to use it for content generation, use it to help create some pictures, videos, or text from communication supports or social media content. You can do it also for web marketing to help you create commercial emails, personalized offers, or classify and analyze customer feedbacks. It can help you with tenders to better extract information. For example, we saw that with PLU, but you can use it for public reports or any tender, basically. Concerning HR, you can use it to create a question generator based on candidate summary. You can use it to automatically screen lots of resumes and identify the best candidates, synthesize the key information from them. And finally, another idea would be to create a self-serve HR that would help new employees on board by creating a question answering tool where they would ask typical questions and it will give them answers based on specific fine-tuning of ChatGPT. Supply and maintenance, you can analyze lots of accident reports and automatically finds recurrent problems, which would help you then implement new safety actions. For audit, you can very quickly analyze and identify the presence of personal data in very large documents. Concerning legal, lots of different applications too. You can analyze very long legal documents, doing textual research across large amount of contracts. You can also help use ChatGPT to help you draft legal documents. It's quite good at structuring texts. And then you can use it to summarize and highlight changes in the large bodies of regulatory documents. It can also help you code. So for IT, you have different use cases as well to generate code based on prompts to help you debug some code as well, and to help you automatize the processing of many different IT tickets to reduce the time spent by classifying different problems that actually have the same answers to some problems that already happened in the past. And finally, if you are tech savvy and you are watching the different news about technology, you can also use ChatGPT to help you synthesize white papers, YouTube videos, and all different contents online. So last but not least, as a recap for this session, we've talked a lot about ChatGPT, all these limits, all the use cases it can address. If you have to keep one message at the end of the day, is that it can help you it has lots of good opportunities. It's really working for some use cases, but it's not one size fits all. You cannot just feed your problem to ChatGPT and it will give you good results. It requires work and deep understanding of how ChatGPT is working. And that's why we have been working on such different projects that use the technology behind ChatGPT. So we are the right person to tell you how to use ChatGPT or NLP latest algorithms to use for your use case. And this makes the transition with the AI program.
So just a word, if you want to know more, so now the session is ending. You know all about ChatGPT, the strengths and what you should not do while using this technology. If you want to know more, just a little bit of information. We are a bunch of data scientists here. And our objective, as I said, as an introduction, is to help you develop AI projects. So if you want to dig more into details about this technology, because we already developed five projects on this technology, you can reuse our materials. And we are working every 6 months with the business unit during 6 months. And the 6 months consist in a lot of training. So we have a lot of training about this technology, about NLP technology. For the VINCI Energy members, you are fortunate because all the material is available on the Innovation Direction website, SharePoint. So all the lessons are already stored in the innovation from VINCI Energy. And if you are from VINCI Construction, I have to find a way to give you all these material, but all these material already exists. So if you want to have these lessons, we can send them to you. So just feel free to ask. If you want to apply for our help, meaning you have an idea, you want to develop an AI project, then you will enter what we call the AI program. Usually the AI program starts in November, but not usually, it starts in November, and it's decomposed in 2 phases. 2 phases only dedicated to develop and learn about AI technology. From November to December, you will have lots of lessons, and in this typical case, during the first week, during the data exploration, we call it like that, you will have an introduction to statistics, etc., and this is related to NLP. If you attend this lesson, then you will know all about this technology and you will be able to develop by yourself the project. Then when you switch to January, it means that your project has a business impact, so you still continue developing it. And then you will have 4 different tracks dedicated on predictive maintenance, problem optimization, computer vision, natural language processing again. So that is why we have lots of lessons. We can give you all this material. It's open to the community. The community in the VINCI group, just ask, feel free to ask. You send me a mail and I will send you all this. So it works like webinar. Everything has been recorded, and it's basically a coach from the AI program giving a lesson to a bunch of users that are called baby data scientists, because their objective is to become a grown data scientists. Finally, what we will do right after this session, this was the typical awareness session. Now we want to dig a little bit into your process to understand what you are currently doing in search for maybe a project to develop in the future. So how we'll proceed? You are, if you already subscribed, you are divided into separate groups. You will meet us here in the amphitheater and we will tell you where you are located. So we are, nowadays, you know everything about NLP and ChatGPT. During 1 hour, we will decompose your process just to know if there is something to do using this technology or not. And if there is nothing to do with this technology, just forget about this technology being implemented in your work. That is as well one of the answer that we give to the group. Sometimes it's useful to use AI. Most of the time it's useless to use this technology. And when it's useless, just forget about it, because you will lose money trying to integrate this into your daily processes. But if it's a go, then go for it. So this will be the purpose of the working group we will have all together. We'll divide you into legal, HR, etc., different specific groups. Then during the summer, we will explore on our side and with you, of course, the feasibility of this project. And if there is an impactful project that come out of your idea, maybe we will propose to the board of VINCI to develop the project altogether so that it become a reality into your business, because that is the purpose of today. So thank you very much for attending this session. For those who are online, of course, the session has been recorded, so you will be able to watch again and the webinar, not the webinar, the presentation. And for those who are on site and who have already subscribed to the working group, please meet us here. We will be 7 coaches from the AI program, and we will work with you onto your daily process. Okay, thank you very much. You can take a 10 minutes break, or let's meet around 5 minutes before 3 in the afternoon, okay? So that you have time to have a drink, water, and coffee if you wish.